I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, and you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, or you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Marie and Fred Green coming to you tonight from 8 to 8 Incarceration to Incorporate. I would like to give a shout out to Mr. Julius Hall for making it possible for us to come on and to share our stories. Mr. AB, who is the brainchild for 8 to 8 Incarceration to Incorporate. And now my co-host, who is missing, Mr. Julius Campbell. He is out, but he will be back shortly, people. But it's a pleasure to have Mr. Fred Green on with me tonight. We're talking about guns and gang violence. And Bishop Bost is here in Savannah. He's going to be at 900 WW Law at the WW Law Center tomorrow. It's 900 East Bolton Street. So, Fred, how you doing?
Man, what it do, Marie? Look, what it do? 8 to 8 family. It's a pleasure to be here again and chopping up and lacing you with some real good game. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what Bishop Bost is trying to do over there in a beacon of our community, the WW Law Center, so it's a wonderful thing. And then later on, we can share a little bit of education about WW Law and what he endeavored to do here in the Savannah area.
Yes, Fred, I think that what Bishop Boston is doing tomorrow is a phenomenal thing. Him and some other leaders that have been incarcerated, who have been in the game before, who have been drug dealers that are now, who have turned their lives around, is coming back to pour into the community to try to talk to the kids, to give them some enlightenment and what not to do. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Green?
I feel well about that because we say that only takes the people who have the lived experience who can effectively facilitate change. It's right. Always, God has always commissioned people who have been in the valley, in the trenches, to go back and reach the people so that, guess what? They don't have to go through the valley experience. They don't have to go in the trenches. They can go and be successful because we overcome not only by the blood of the Lamb, but by the word of our testimony, Marie.
I so love that. You know what, Frederick? What I like is you said a mouthful. Guess what? To share our experience, which means that they don't have to go through that, because we learned that in Tyro, that self-experience don't have to be the best teacher. You can take and look at Fred's life, and you can look at my life, you can look at Julia's life, and you can say those are the things that I don't want to go through. So Bishop Boston is here, and there's going to be a panel tomorrow at 900 East Bolton Street at the WW Law Center, trying to get guns and gang violence away from the youth. Now, Fred, I made a post today and I said this: do you ever think that it would end? Do you think gun and gang violence will ever just come to an end?
Well, I think, I don't know. I look at the world and, there's a scripture that say the love of many are waxing cold. But I think if we do our best effort, all things are possible through God. And if we do our best effort to give back to the community and go back and reach those, compel those, there's an excerpt in Jude that say that you snatch people out of the fire, hating even the garment to be spotted by the flesh. So we have been commissioned, those of us that are left, in order to, because of the fact that God spared our lives, we have to give back, Marie. We have to go and try. And to be truthful and honest with you, you know, the John Jay College of New York does a great thing because I was a outreach and support coordinator for the city of Savannah one time for
Mm-hmm.
a reduction in group and gang violence.
Mm-hmm.
And the John Jay College of New York did something significant. I think it's being propagandized more than what it is. But the John Jay College and all of their statistical analysis and statistical data said there's only 0.05% of people that drive group and gang violence. So it's not, so what they do is they magnify to
Mm-hmm.
enforce RICO, to enforce all of these gang task force instead of preventative programming like Tyro, preventative youth programs, youth intervention programs. All the
Right.
money goes to incarceration, you know, and so they make it more bigger. It's only a small, this is what I just say, 0.05%.
That's nothing. That's
That's less than
nothing.
1% of people that's even involved in that type of activity. You know, you might have 10 people, only one is a leader, the rest nine are followers. So
Right.
therefore, if we can intervene and
Mm-hmm.
catch the nine, you see what I'm saying? Those nine can influence that one.
Influence that one. And I like that, Fred. But Fred, this is what I want to know. Why I said this before, Fred, and I know that you know this. $90,000 to incarcerate one youth, right? And I asked a young man, I'm not going to call his name. He was in a gang, and he told me, I was telling him how much they spent to take and keep a youth locked up. He said, I said, but if they would take that $90,000 and put it back into the urban neighborhoods to give the kids something to do, to have something to look forward to, Fred, like a person like you, Fred, will fill in the gap. OAA, give money to organizations that is willing, grassroots organizations that are willing to help. They're willing to go into the trenches. Youth Intercept, that's willing to go into the trenches. Tip organization connecting the dots, as you and Julius would say, and help and get fund those organizations. Don't you think that it would be a better outcome for gun and gang violence, Fred?
Yeah, well, you know, that's too much like right.
Oh,
Remember
okay.
remember the system is not broken. It's working the way it was designed to work. You
Yes,
still
sir.
talk about the 13th Amendment, right? Neither
Mm-hmm.
slavery or indentured servitude has been abolished except when the party has been duly convicted or punished by crime. I may have screwed the words up, but y'all know what
That's
I
all
mean.
right.
Well, as soon as you go look it up, I got very close. You go look it up. That as soon as the person is punished by a crime or duly convicted, then on the books, that's why California pushing for the remove the exception rule because
Mm-hmm.
except when been punished by a crime or the party been duly convicted. So basically,
Right.
on the books in the Constitution, the 13th Amendment, you a slave. So the whole premise of convict leasing and incarceration was to reincarcerate freely enslaved people. That
Wow.
was the
And
whole premise of it. So they came
but
up
that,
with black codes and laws and Jim Crow laws where you couldn't even cross the street. You couldn't look at a white person. You couldn't do this. You couldn't walk on one side of the railroad track. You could all these different. You could research this stuff. It's
I know I
historical.
believe
It's
you,
documented.
Fred.
Yeah,
No,
I'm just
but
saying for the listening audience,
oh
it's
yeah.
historical, it's documented. So then what they did is came back and re-enslaved people, re-enslaved and locked people up who was freely enslaved people. They were newly enslaved, supposedly emancipated, and
Mm-hmm.
then took and guess what? Say, okay, well, nobody ain't got no money to get you out. So what we gonna do? We're gonna lease you to the state. We're gonna lease you to the county. We're gonna go and make you lay the railroads, dig the ditches, old sling blade and bush axe for y'all that know that. You see what I'm saying? Chop down whole pathways for stuff.
Wow.
For stuff and what we're gonna do is we're gonna lease you to the county. So really, in all actuality, the county and the state make way more money off a individual that's incarcerated than taxpayers pay tax. That's a fallacy. That's a myth.
Now, Fred, guess what? Because I know for one adult that is incarcerated by the state is $40,000, right? And they look like they pay more for the juveniles because they pay 90 grand for one juvenile. So if you got 5 juveniles, you paying $450,000. But they would rather pay that money to the system because, like just like you say, it's more right to have them locked up because it was designed for that from the jump, from the beginning.
From the giddy up. Yeah.
From the beginning. And so the masses, but I like what Judge Mathis said. He said that he was trying to get other judges to sign in with him because he feel that men and women who are incarcerated at work should be paid because it's still a form of slavery. You digging the ditches, you doing the boots, you doing everything else that people that are actually getting paid for in society. But when you get incarcerated, they pay you no money. And they want to treat you like nothing. And they don't call you by a name. They call you by a number. Because you know what that means? You mean nothing to them.
That's right. That's dehumanization. That's chattel slavery in its finest. You didn't know your name. All you knew was your birth year. If you knew that, you knew the beginning. You didn't know you didn't. Sometimes, okay, you didn't even know what day you was born. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you didn't know your name. You only knew the slave owner last name. So all of this is remnants of, and we talked about history before the podcast came on, that people got to go back and research. You cannot sit around and say, well, that stuff don't matter no more. That stuff is old. We talk about Talmadge Bridge. My partner Oscar, he shout out to OG, shout out to Oscar Brown, who said, man, you need to look at this. The Talmadge Bridge that connect Georgia to South Carolina was named after a bigot, named after a racist. That need to come down. You see what I'm saying? They talk about making it higher. You see what I'm saying? Where people are profiting off of this stuff. And if the true history, talk about critical race theory, talk all that stuff, what the DeSantis trying to do, if that stuff ain't told, then to me, it's same game, different players. It's going to continue to be perpetuated, and then our children could continue to fall through the cracks. And so what Bishop Bost is doing is phenomenal. And he's coming back to a beacon of the community, to where a true living that most of the young people who listen, most of the people incarcerated listen, most of the people that's out there don't listen, don't even know about Wallace Wesley Law. W.W. Law and some of the stuff that he did in the Savannah community.
And he did a whole lot. And I remember being a young woman, a young girl, and I remember when I used to catch the city bus, Fred, he would ride the city bus, and he was such a humble man. And so I think that I like that when we took the kids, Tyra, when we took them to the Scan Museum, and we learned about and we look, y'all, running 1,000 miles for freedom. And we learned about William and Ellen Craft and how they had to run away. Listen, history does matter. Our history does matter. They're trying to write it and get it out the books, and you shouldn't talk about it in school. No. I think it should be talked about because those things still take place right now to this day. Don't you know that in Mississippi right now, Fred, that they want the Jim Crow law? I don't know if they passed it out. They wanted to come back. They wanted to come back in Mississippi. So yes, those things still matter. And that's what Bishop Bost, and that's why you got a Fred Green and a Julius Campbell and a Julius Hall and an A.B. and a Marie to sit around and say, come on, you young people, you have to get it together. Because as Fred and I would say, if you start when they're young, and you get the young people, Bishop Bost them and Donnell, Pastor Donnell, what they're trying to say, they want to get on while they are young. So they won't have to be torn young men and young women who are upset with the world. And they don't have to go through the judicial system. They don't have to take that route. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what Bishop Bost them are trying to tell you, and Fred Green and Julius Hall and Marie and Julius Campbell are trying to, you don't have to take that route.
It's like we given the example that we tell you is a hole in the ground, and inside that hole is spikes and broken glass and everything that can harm you. We want you to either not go down that street, jump across that hole, or go on the other side. It makes no sense for you to tell me that you're going to make a mistake because I need to make my own mistakes. Once I put you on notice, It's not a mistake no more. And then on top of that, Marie, I also like to touch on group and gang. You
Go
know,
ahead.
group and gang is only defined by two or more people that's committing a criminal or a deviant act. It ain't got. It's
Okay,
not no
speak on
whole
that.
large group of people.
Speak
It's
on
only
that,
two
Fred.
or more.
Mm-hmm.
Only two or more that's involved in a criminal or deviant act. That could be
Wow.
considered a gang. So you got to almost consider some law enforcement now, not all, but some
Right.
law enforcement that's operating in deviant, that's killing innocent black men, killing innocent people, not unarmed, innocent. There's a differentiation between the two
That's right.
that are killing innocent people, and they're doing. The other ones are complicit by standing around. That is considered a gang. I'm gonna say it. I don't care. That's
That's
considered a gang. If you got a bunch of police that's selling, that's trapping and selling dope and all that, they are a group or a gang. But we never focus on that. You never
never
focus
focus.
on white supremacist gangs. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta run around, and I'm gonna tell y'all something too. I'm finna put you up and lace your bootstraps up with some game. A lot of the stuff that's going on, these mass shootings, stuff that is a lot of white supremacists that's running around with blackface on. So it's making it look like black people. They wearing gang colors or different set colors, going into the community. Don't fall for the trick bag now. Going into certain communities and sparking it off. And they wearing blackface. That's an old historical game. That's what they
Yes.
used to do when they wanted to create chaos or try to infiltrate a certain type of civil rights group. They will paint their face black and act like that and pose as black people and create chaos. They will make a mockery out of us with blackface. You know what I'm saying? And they still do it. They could put a hoodie on, paint their face black. Somebody said that's a black person did it, when all the time it's somebody in blackface.
Wow. That's why it's good, young people. That's why it's no. Don't say, "Oh, that's they ain't about time, man." And nobody want to hear that. You better want to hear it. You better want to hear, because these things are happening. Guess what? It's entrapment. Don't you know that the police? Listen, now this has not. Let me put a disclaimer on here, because I know Mr. Hall allow us to use his podcast. So this has nothing to do with Julius Hall, okay? But you can take and you can Google it or whatever. But don't you know that the police have the law on their side? It's called entrapment, where they can lie to get you to try to set you up. I'm telling you, they've been doing it for years. So young people, why you got Fred Green and you got AB and you got Julius Hall and Julius Campbell and Marie Jones and Angela Brantley and fill in the gap, tip organization. These people care. When a person take out their time, it's just like friends not getting paid. And we take out our time to come on, to come around you, to run behind you, to do whatever it is to save you. Why not just listen? You don't have to hit your head, young people, or against a rock to know that it hurt. I hit my head. I told you I did. I said, y'all, it hurt. You say, no, Miss Marie, I want to go see if the rock hurt, because self-experience is best experience. That's a lie. You don't have to experience it. You don't have to go to prison.
That's right.
You go to prison, you're just going to be a number. You're going to be a number. And Fred, I wanted you to really elaborate on that, Fred, when you said about the two members. One thing you need is 2 or 3 people, and you'll consider a game, because that's how the RICO Act come about, right, Fred?
That's it. That's it. And not only that, when you talk about staying alive, it's even deeper. I tell the young people I talk to them, you lucky if you make it to prison. We trying to make you stay alive, because
That's
it
it.
seems like because grace is leaving the earth, and people not even making it to get a second chance. I'm gonna say that one more again.
Say it again.
We trying to keep you safe. We're trying to keep you alive, and we're trying to
Yeah.
keep you out of prison. But the
Yeah.
second one is keep you alive,
Keep you
because
alive.
grace is leaving the earth, and people are not even prison is a second chance. Nobody don't need to go there, but it's like a second chance. People ain't even making it to a second chance.
And listen, people ain't making it to a second chance. Can I tell you something? Prison ain't safe either, because it's people who get killed in prison. So young people, listen, when somebody is trying to talk to you, young man, I asked the young man, Fred, I don't remember his name. You know who I'm talking about, the young man who came to there, Tyrone. He got upset. and he left and they had to take him home, Fred. I asked him, I said, well, you should. He was telling me about how he said, I hate to see people walk around the block, around the corner. He said, because it's so young and things going on. He said, because my homeboy walked around the corner and he got shot up. And he said, that just bothers me when I see somebody walk around the corner. I want, listen, you don't have to experience those things. Those certain things I don't think kids should have to experience, but you all are seeing a whole lot. And I'm Fred. I made a video, Fred. I want to know, what is the beef? What's the beef, Fred? You done been out there, Fred. What is the beef? West Side say the West Side can't come to the East Side. The East Side can't come to the West Side, and nobody on no side. So what is the beef? Why are black men so mad with each other? Why? What is the beef?
Well, scholars will assert that people kill where they live.
Mm-hmm.
Criminality and deviance happens. It's an interconnected thing. It's communal, and we just operate within our communities. Italians kill with Italians,
Mm-hmm.
whites kill whites,
Mm-hmm.
Asians kill Asians in their community, operate with criminality and deviance in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just one of those things that if we're not the examples, and we're not the role models, then who becomes your role model? Social media becomes your role model. Media representation becomes your role model.
Right.
Negative peer influence becomes your role model.
Right.
The scholar is not looked at. The architect is not looked at. The optometrist or ophthalmologist is not looked at if they're not visible. You know what I'm saying? Gangsterism is looked at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All my life, all I wanted to ever be was a gangster. You know what I'm saying? I idolized gangsterism when I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? And so therefore, you see what I'm saying? We watch these shows and we get a tingly sensation watching people when they operate in gangsterism. You know what I'm saying? You take a what they call it, organized crime boss, Lucky Luciano's, you talk John Gotti's. You see what I'm saying? They're classified as infamous. Now figure that, right? They do murder, they do extortion, they do embezzlement, they do all the stuff, but they're put on another social status and they're considered an organized crime boss. They're separated from sociologists. Say you got white collar criminals and you got street criminals. See what I'm saying? White collar criminals, doctors don't rob banks and rob cab drivers or rob the pizza man, but they defraud Medicaid.
Exactly.
They rob Medicaid. You see what I'm saying? Right. You gotta. We watch Ocean's 11, which is one of my favorite, with George Clooney. Right?
Yeah.
He ain't an armed robber. He ain't a jack boy. You can't call him a jack boy. He's a heistman. Yeah. It's the same thing.
But guess what? You know what I've learned? Like with African Americans and Caucasian people, they don't call them thieves. When they steal, they say they embezzle. But when we steal, they say we are thieves.
You're a thief, yeah.
We're a thief.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is sociology, and Dr. King was a sociologist. That's why you need to study Dr. King. Don't just talk about think I had a dream speech. Do the blueprint, do the letter from Birmingham. You know what I'm saying? Look at his tactics when the poor people's campaign. You know what I'm saying? And he studied society and how it affects human behavior. That's what sociologists do. That's a term that I didn't know nothing about when I was a juvenile, that we got to expose these youth to. If we don't expose them to nothing different, they ain't going to do nothing different.
And that's what I'm saying, Fred. That's what I'm saying. Like, say if we was to take a group of 5 young men, right, that is from, we the one took the neighborhood, we the one took neighbor off, and we call it the hood, because this is still a neighborhood, right? So we take the kids that is around in our neighborhoods, 5 of those kids, and say we take them out, and just say, for instance, the Landers, and we take them out there on the Landers, and they live out there. We put them out there. Do you think that they can survive that?
Yeah, well, what they'll do, they'll get exposure. It will give them something to aspire. I want to put my mama in a house. I always tell the story. I didn't know nothing about Georgetown. I didn't know
Right.
nothing about Windsor Forest. The farthest I ever met out my community, Park Avenue, Fraser Home, Kate Homes, Yamacraw, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hazard County. That was it. Every now
Right.
and then I ran around Hitch Village, Fred Wessel, if I was with somebody. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That's as far as I went. I didn't know
Right.
nothing about deeper South Side. So not
That's
even knowing something about your own, nobody never took me on a college campus. You know what I'm
wow.
saying? Nobody never took me to expose me to a law firm or a doctor's office to say you could become this, young man. You know what I'm saying? I challenge a bunch of the pastors in the community. And Reverend Tillman, I'm gonna say it, disclaimer, ain't got nothing to do with Julie Hall. I would say Reverend Tillman said, do you? I said, I stood on the block 24/7. And
Yeah.
I was across from Tremont Temple, and nobody never came across and said, young man, what you doing with your life? Let me
Come on.
show you something different. Let me expose you to something different. He said, would it have made a difference? I said, well, it probably would have.
Yes, sir.
But I know what didn't make a difference, nobody doing it.
Fred, you know
That's
what we
why
should do?
my life went the direction that it went. So if we do the same thing and we don't address these young people and we don't try to give them something else, that's what I like what we doing when we working with the youth, because we are supposed, you know what them youth said when we took them to SCAD?
What they
3 of them
said,
said,
Fred.
I pass by here every day and I didn't know they do all this right here.
Come, Fred. You know what I think that we should do? Fill in the gap, Fred. Make a mental note, write it down. Fred, you said something that I like. What you just said. You said nobody took you on a college campus. Fred, we need to set up when we have them. When we have our next set of group of kids, we need to make appointments to take them out to Georgia Southern or Savannah State, or either take
Yeah.
them. Can we get a field trip? Either take them out of town to show them different things. Fred, you said a mouthful, because guess what? The pastors them are not doing it. As long as we ain't putting the
Well,
nigga back.
hold up, Marie.
I can't.
You gotta say
Okay.
some. You gotta say
Okay.
some because you got
Okay.
some that may be trying to do stuff.
Disclaimer. Some of them, but the
Yeah,
ones
some may be
who are
doing it.
doing, but the ones who are doing, thank you. But some of them are not. So, Fred, guess what? I was only going by what I heard you say when you said Pastor Tillman asked you what if have made a difference, right?
Yeah.
So, what I'm saying is, I have 4 sons. I have 4 sons. And I'm not gonna count my 36-year-old. I'm not gonna count but my 17-year-old and my 14-year-old and my 22-year-old, John and Joshua and Jaden. I would like for them to go on a college campus. That's what one of my clients asked me. He said, "What school do your son want to go to?" Joshua said he wanted to play ball at LSU. He said, that's a very good college." He said, "Have you took and made an appointment to take a tour of the campus?" He said, "I think that you should have your husband." Well, I don't have a husband. He said, "Well, I didn't tell him that, Fred." He said, "I think that you should have someone, your husband, to make that appointment, to take your son to go around." That's what the difference. I'm not saying that black men don't do that. I'm just saying the black men I know haven't done that. Take young men, take their nephews or their cousins to a college campus where they can tour it.
Yep.
Everybody wanna be a thug, and everybody wanna be a gangster. Everybody, you wanna go to prison? No, I don't think that you should want to go. We're talking about gun and gang violence with our youth, and this is
Yeah.
a part of Incarceration Incorporated. Go ahead, Fred.
I just got a colonoscopy. I
Mm-hmm.
asked the man, I said, what is your title? He said, a gastroenterologist.
Okay.
I growed up, I ain't never heard of that term.
Me either, but I know what it is
You know,
now.
yeah, that's the GI doctor. That's the one that got
Exactly.
to check your intestines and help you if you can't go to the bathroom, help you find out why you restricted in your bowels and in your intestines.
And
And
young
your
people,
colon cancer run rampant among African Americans and
and
among people of color. And so these are the things that I told him about. I said, man, yeah, there's some young people that need to come and see you. And he got locks. This man had locks. It blow my mind. I'm a grown man. He
that's
got
right.
locks. And I would, if I would have been in the doctor's office, and the way we kicked it,
Yeah.
Maria, if I would have been in the doctor's office and would have thought he was off the block.
See what I'm saying?
But he a straight up doctor, probably
And he's
making 200,000 or 300,000 a year,
educated.
living without risk, y'all. Now this ain't just for the juveniles. Now watch this. That's for y'all who incarcerated, who ain't made your mind up too,
Come
who
on,
watching
Fred.
this podcast, who listening, and y'all still trapping in the chain gang.
Come on, Fred.
You still trapping in the chain gang. You still robbing
Come on,
locker
Fred.
boxes. You know, you doing your thing in there. This for
Mm-hmm.
you too. Because if you don't make that pivot, you don't make that shift, you don't come up with a plan right now while you incarcerated, you know what I'm saying? Or to the one who vacillating between whether he want to make the right decision or not.
That's
You know,
it.
this for you too. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You go right or you go left, but you got to go in the right direction and live
Come on.
without risk, no matter how hard it get, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's for you too.
I like that, Fred. Fred, you know what? I just want to remind the people it's at 900 East Bolton Street. The WW Law is going to be July the 8th. It's from 11 to 1, and me and Fred Green will be there also tomorrow. You know what I told Fred in Tarot, in the Tarot book, it talks about integrity, and something I said to the kids, I said, I want us, the things that we're trying to give you all, we have to be that too. Because let me tell you something about those kids. Kids are not stupid. And they're not stupid by far. And they watch you. And with those kids, they watch us, they took and they listen to us. And then after a while, they begin to open up to us. So I think that what we're asking the kids to be, we have to be. Gun and
Yeah.
game violence, y'all.
Well,
The people,
Marie, you have to be the influence. So
that's
many
it, Fred.
times organizations only do a little 4-week program, 6-week program. It ain't even a bandage. It
That's
ain't even a bandage
say it, Fred.
to a gaping wound,
That's
to
it.
internalized trauma, to
Mm.
generational trauma, to vicarious trauma.
Yeah.
Vicarious trauma meaning secondary trauma. It ain't just a such thing as PTSD. Like you said, the young man said he saw his friend get shot. I saw two people I was with going to buy blunts come out of Mike's package shop on Duffy Street. And both of them got their brains blowed out in front of me. I never forget that. You see what I'm saying? I didn't even have my pistol on me. I had put my pistol down in the bushes. I didn't even have my pistol on me to try to react to keep the
Right.
dude from killing them.
Right.
So because it was hot that day, and it just so happened that it was hot. I'm talking about not heat, but it was hot that day, and this dude killed two people in broad daylight in front of me, and it wasn't no police driving down Montgomery Street. So what I'm saying is we have to be the influence. We got to give long-term programs to these youth because once we get them, vicarious traumatization is secondary. PTSD is one thing. Secondary traumatic stress disorder is another thing. That's when
Yes.
you live in the stresses and the trauma of poverty, of what you see your mama go through, what you see your
Right.
daddy go through, what you see your family go through, what you see your peers go through. You know the stress you feel, Marie, and everybody else who maybe listen, when you got somebody else that's close to you that's going through something, and you take on that stress till you feel the tightness in your shoulders.
Yes. And that is a lot.
That's a lot to carry. So
That's
if
a
we don't give them an outlet, what Marie, they said pressure do what? Bust
the,
pipes.
the busted. You that
And
you know
and we don't teach them how to grieve properly. We none of us, I didn't know, I'm gonna speak for myself. I didn't know nothing about we taught not to cry. You don't cry, you don't grieve, you don't care about nothing, you don't have no feelings about nothing. It's MOB, it's 10 toes down. You know what I'm saying? You stay in the street, you talk earlier about hood. Hood is when the neighbors move out, and we not the neighbors. We don't have the resources. The resources is the people that come in the neighborhood and dismantle the neighborhood and take the resources, gentrify the neighborhood. But they say, well, I'm tired of this neighborhood, I'm going to build another utopia. I'm going to take all my resources with it and leave this area desolate, and we glorify hood.
we
No,
say it
poverty.
again, friend. We do
Yeah,
what
we
we
glorify hood.
glorify hood. And guess what? Can I tell you something, friend?
That's
When I was
poverty.
that is when I was talking to the man yesterday from Tyro, the director of Tyro, and we were talking about when he said how he was a pastor, youth pastor, and he said taking those kids, and he said, Marie, we were talking about how young boys who have been molested. He said, Marie, I've been molested. And young boys don't want to tell that story. Young girls don't want to tell, but you definitely not going to get it out of a young boy. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the madness come at, and that's where the anger come at, and the hurt and the pain. And so I like what you said, Fred, when you said we can't give up on, you can't just say kids who are going through mess, right? You can't say, okay, we got a 4 weeks program, and this is what it's going to be. But these kids are living in the trenches, Fred. That's why I love Tree, because Tree be in the trenches with those kids, and he really cared. He really cared. Fred, let me tell you something. I really think I love the name of your organization, Fill in the Gap. Fill in the Gap means so many things. Let me tell you something. Fill in the gap for that young man who don't have a positive, he don't have a father in the home. He don't have no cousins or no uncles. You fill in the gap. You take them out to the apprenticeship place, Fred, to tell them that guess what? It's so much more. That lady said that the man, when he retired, he got $1.5 million from his pension, Fred. That is a career. This is something that you're trying to teach them, welding and all that. Marie, guess what, Fred? A lot of young men don't know how to change tires. Just like you say, taking them to and allowing them to learn. So Fred Green, guess what? I commend you and Julius Campbell for taking and want to take and to teach the young men to fill in the gap. That's I like that name. That's a broad name.
Yeah, well, it's FTG. You know, it's my name. It's me. I was that youth that didn't have no skills. Only
Right.
skills I had was learned behaviors. You know what I'm saying? Everything that I try to instill in young people and adults today,
Right.
because either you nurture young children or you
Mm-hmm.
repair. Frederick Douglass said this, same name as me,
Mm-hmm.
besides the Douglas. Either you nurture young men, it's better to nurture young men than to repair, nurture young children than to repair broken men. Well, we got to do both. We got to try to nurture young men, and then we got to repair the broken men that was
But
once
you
young.
say that again, Fred. That was one young man, but Fred, guess what? If they get a Fred Green in their life, and you can nurture them while they're young, you wouldn't have to nurture them when they become adults. Because guess
That's
what? They will see the positive in you. You are very positive. And Fred, as much as you may say, Marie, y'all don't say that. Fred, you have such a call on your life. See, you didn't take and go through all of that if you were set up for such a time as this for these kids need a Fred Green. They need somebody to say, yeah, guess what, homie? I done been where you been. And guess what, Fred? You wear many hats. Not just that hat literally that you have on. You wear many hats. You can get gutter with them. You know what it is to be gutter. But guess what? You get very educated and you can teach them some things. That's why Fred, let me tell you something. They respect you. I watch those kids when they with us. They respect you. They need to see a man. Those kids, you know what kids need to see? A man. Those boys, you don't think they want discipline? They want it. But when they have to take and guess what we do? I'm guilty of this, Fred, because I was a single mother. I was a young mother. Mark was my baby boy, but Mark was also like a man in my life. I depended on my son. And guess what? That damaged him.
yeah, yeah,
I apologize, son. That damaged him, Fred, because guess what? He seen his mama go through. He seen that I had wants and needs, and guess what? There was nobody there. So he felt with his little self, he felt that I got to help my mama. I got to
yep.
help my mom, and I put a lot of pressure on my son. Miss Ayala Van Zandt talked about that. We damage our sons.
Yeah, they
You
call it
understand?
negative messages. You gonna be the man of the house. You gonna be
See,
at 10, 12. They can't be a man. You know
they
what I'm saying? You
they
you
can't
turn
be.
and put all that responsibility on them, and then when they can't fulfill the responsibility, then you got shame-based core.
Yes,
You shame develop. So
and
now I
Fred,
need to medicate this shame because
mhm,
I don't feel like a man, so that I can't be cognitively or physically. So now I don't feel like this, but now I know what I can do to become a man. I'm gonna go out there and take something. I'm gonna go out there and do this, and I'm gonna go out and do that
right.
because I got to do this to help my mom.
I got that. And guess what? That's what Miss Ayala Van Zandt, she had a show with nothing but men on one day. And she told him, she said, guess what? She told that mother, she said, guess what? I am not your broken promise. Whatever my father took you through, it's not my fault. When we take it, we lay all of our stuff. Guess what? I don't care if you're a single mother and you hold conversations with your children, grown conversations that's something that they shouldn't hear. They are not your friends. Well, this is my friend. You know, my son, that's all I have. Listen, I've been there. I'm telling Mark he was my best little friend. I had Mark at a very young age. And so for that, guess what? When men are hurt, when they're hurt as little boys, that's why so many broken men who do damage to women, because they're mad with their mothers. So they can't take the pain that they feel out on their mother, so they take it out on their woman who is in their life. Right. So we as women, we have to take y'all and we have to relearn ourselves. We have to relearn, and guess what? To not hurt our children. It's not your intentions to do it, but guess what? We do it.
And it's a such thing also, Marie, what I tell you is a surrogate father. Find a surrogate father. Find a man that's doing something in the community that's willing to take. They're out there. It's not few and far between. There are men out there that's willing to take your son and you nurture them and try to raise them. And and I want to segue that into WW Law before we run out of time, because that's what he did in the community. So I want to give you all a historical fact about the WW Law Center. It's just not a big old pink building sitting on Bolton Street for nothing. Got a library, got a gym, and it has meaning and purpose. So if you have never been in the WW Law Center, they got great resources there. Go there, visit. It's one of our historical sites. Let me read something to you about Mr. Law and share some information if you did not know. If you're from the Savannah area, even if you're from surrounding county, maybe you've never been in the WW Law Center, but you need to go in there. You need to learn about Mr. Wesley. I used to do it on my Color Truth YouTube channel, but now I get a chance to do this here. Wesley Wallace, WW Law, was born 1923 and died 2002. He was a prominent civil rights leader. So you sometimes people only think about Martin Luther King. There was many civil rights leaders, local historian, historic preservationist, and community leader in Savannah, Georgia, the Seaport. All right. Wesley Wallace Law was born on January 1, 19 in Savannah, the oldest of three children of Geneva Wallace and Wesley Law. He was greatly influenced by his mother, Geneva W. Law, grandmother Lily Bell Wallace, mentor Reverend Ralph Mark Gilbert, and Scoutmaster John S. Delaware. So we got a Delaware Center, and we got a Ralph Mark Gilbert Museum that needs to be visited. Both Reverend Gilbert and Delaware were officials in the Savannah chapter of the NAACP. Law joined the NAACP Youth Council in high school and later served as president. He attended Georgia State Industrial College, which was the former name of Savannah State University. It was called Georgia State Industrial College, or HBCU, only for African Americans.
Right.
Before he was drafted into the U.S. Army during World War II, after he completed his military service, he finished his bachelor's degree in biology. Law was a longtime Boy Scout for Troop 49, which was made up of boys from First Bryan Baptist Church, of which he was a member and a Sunday school teacher. He was a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service for over 40 years. He delivered mail. From 1950 to 1976, WW Law served as president of the Savannah chapter NAACP. Now watch this, y'all. This is important. During the 1960s, he led weekly mass meetings at Bolton Street Baptist Church and St. Philip AME Church, during which he urged passive resistance to segregation and nonviolent protests. And if you look over down at that community now, it's almost like it's become segregated again. All right. He was involved in efforts to desegregate Grayson Municipal Stadium. I never knew that. Black people couldn't even go in Grayson Stadium.
No.
That big old stadium where they have all them college games at and football, high school game. You couldn't even go to that.
It's filled up now.
This. Municipal department stores. Everybody like to go shop and all that stuff. It was department store that didn't even want your money. All right. Lunch counters on Broughton Street. You go downtown and shop, there was lunch counters down there where you couldn't even spend your money. You couldn't even sit to eat.
That's right.
and the beaches at Tybee Island. Now, I just found out as a full-grown adult that Hillhead Island was the black beach and Tybee
To
Island was
me.
the white beach. You
Same
couldn't
to
even
me,
go.
friend.
WW law helps desegregate, not integrate. There's a difference between the two. Desegregate Tybee Island. They just not made a ruckus because all the black people was down there on Tybee Island. Same game,
Mm-hmm.
different players.
That's
Orange
it.
Crush. Remember
Mm-hmm.
Orange Crush just left? They was trying to stop Orange Crush. Same game, different players. People like
Right.
W. Law afforded you the opportunity to even be able to go on the beach and enjoy God's sand and water. Watch this. He led an 18-month boycott on Broughton Street merchants. Law and largely credited for helping to keep Savannah's civil rights movement more peaceful than those in the other southern cities. In
Wow.
1961, he was fired from his postal job because of his civil rights activities. They tried to shut him down, but
Mm-hmm.
reinstated after national NAACP leaders and President John F. Kennedy, the president, came to his defense. So this man got this center over here named after him. That's how powerful he was. I just told my partner T guy today. I said, man, I want to be able to have one call. That's all. That's what kind of power I want. I want to make sure I make one call, and then for anybody that need help, it get done. Young
That's
people,
right.
that's what you got to aspire to do. People
That's
that's
right.
locked up, that's what you got to aspire to do. That you
That's
will
right.
be able to make that type of change. He was able to get reinstated for the United States Postal because of his services.
Mm.
After his run as NAACP president, he focused his efforts on preserving Savannah African American history. He established the Savannah Yamacraw branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which I knew nothing about. And you talk about the Yamacraw, man, they trying to tear down Yamacraw right now as
That's
we
right.
speak. And that's unraveling all the work. These folks be on a 30-year, 40-year, 50-year plan, y'all. You talk about decided to talk about no woke. We got to stay, either you stay asleep or you wake up.
Exactly.
All right. The Kingsdale Cottage Museum, Beach Institute, African American Culture Center, the Ralph Mott Gibbons Civil Rights Museum, and the Negro Heritage Trail Tour. He also helped bring attention to and preserve Law Grove South Cemetery, the city's historically African American municipal cemetery.
Wow.
W.W. Law received honorary doctorates from the Savannah College of Art and Design and Savannah State University. He was honored by the National Trust for Historic Preservation and the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation for his preservation efforts in the community. W.W. Law died on July 28th, coming up, 2002, at his home in Savannah. He was born right there on Gwinnett Street, y'all. You go back and research the history. These same tactics we need to use today. W.W. Law fought for us to have some of the liberties. Broughton Street. How many of y'all enjoy Broughton Street? Could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine going on Broughton Street and couldn't enter a store? Couldn't sit
Couldn't
at
try.
a lunch counter?
And guess what, Fred? We couldn't try on clothes neither. They had to tape. Guess what they had to do? The mother would have to tape a child for put on a piece of paper and draw. They didn't think that we was worthy to try on their clothing. So that's why WW Law, not just Dr. King and the other civil rights movement people, WW Law, people that's here that lived here in Savannah, had merchants, had African Americans say, look here, well, since you are not worthy to go sit at the counters to eat, then don't shop there. Don't
That's
shop
right.
there.
And that's how you make change, Marie. You make change
Exactly.
by, just like you could push back from the table, stop spending your money. There's an old saying that if you take and you hit them in their pockets, their heart and their mind will follow.
Their
I'm going to say
heart
that
and
one
their
more
mind.
again.
Their heart
If
and
you
mind.
hit them in the pockets economically, their hearts and their mind will follow. If
Yes.
we collectively, like Dr. Umar always said, we spend $1 billion on air, or however many billions on Air Jordans, on hair and weave, on alcohol, on McDonald's. We spending billions of dollars. If we
Stop it.
hold back our money for one day, we will collapse the economy. I'm talking from any industry. We stock up on
Yes.
water and food that we need in the house and don't spend no money collectively And one day we can build generational wealth. Marie, I'm done.
Yes. Okay. Because guess what? You got to listen. Guess what, Fred? I love that. They got to listen. You got to want it. You got to listen, young people. Gun and gang violence tomorrow. WW Law, 900 East Bolden Street. This is Marie and Fred. We're coming to your hearing, trying to make a difference with you. Dr. Bishop Bost will be there tomorrow. Pastor Donnell Houston will be there tomorrow, and 2 other gentlemen on that panel is there also as well. Me and Fred Green will be there tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, those that are still incarcerated, just prepare yourself. The chains and the doors will be open one day. So I hope you're preparing your hearts and minds to get ready to come out again into society. And I hope that you have a plan. This is Marie and Fred Green. Good night, people. See you tomorrow, Fred.
Like this.